Let's start this lecture real quickly with a review of what we talked about before. The cause of the Great Depression, you don't have to write these down. We're an unstable economy, um, which means the wealth were getting wealthier, the poor were staying poor. We had a surplus of items created in manufacturing, and the middle class workers and farmers were doing we're doing very poorly. We had overspeculation. Speculators who had bought stock, used it as collateral to buy more stock, were losing money because it's kind of a pyramid scheme. You continue to buy stock, use it as collateral to buy more stock. Well, if all that stock goes bad, you owe all that money for the money that you had loaned. And you lose stock because you use it as collateral, which means you have to forfeit your stock if you can't pay back the loan you used to buy the stock in the first place. And government policies were not very effective during this time period. And this led to Franklin Delano Roosevelt's what he called his New Deal for America. And Franklin Delano Roosevelt was elected because he was willing to try something very drastic, something brand new. And in the first 100 days, he did. He created the Emergency Banking Act, which allowed the government to get into the books, the record books of banks, and decide whether they were healthy or not. He created the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, FDIC, which ensured that the money you put in the bank, if the bank went bankrupt, then the government, through an insurance policy, would pay back the money that you had in the bank. Next slide. During that first 100 days, he also created the Security and Exchange Commission, which is still around today. It regulates the stock market, makes sure it's an even playing field and people play by rules that are fair. And he created the Federal Emergency Relief Administration, FARA, which today is called FIFA, but is still around today. Send money to local relief agencies to help in times of trouble. Particularly, these are images from a hurricane in Alabama, which on the top, which the FARA, Federal Emergency Relief Administration, sent money to, and here they are building drainage ditches to stop flooding in, I believe, Wisconsin in the bottom picture. Moving right along. The most important thing for average citizens that he did was public works programs that he created. Jobs that were created specifically to build public facilities like schools and parks and courthouses. But these jobs were created to put people back to work, to put money in their pocket so they could pay the rent and buy things. Civilian Works Administration, the CWA, they build roads, parks, airports, schools. They did courthouses and government buildings, and these were buildings that were needed, but more importantly, even if they weren't needed, these were jobs that were created to put money in people's pockets. Here they are building a school on the bottom. And then there was the Civilian Conservation Corporation, which maintained forests and built national parks. A lot of the state parks in Indiana were built by the CCC. They also did beaches. And they lived in barracks like the Army. Here's Civilian Conservation Corps was actually dissolved in his second term of office. It was ruled unconstitutional, that whole law, by the Supreme Court. But here they would live in barracks and work out in the fields and out in the forest to build national parks and things like that. Moving right along. The National Recovery Administration, which you see in the bottom right-hand corner, it helped regulate wages so people made money, helped create good working conditions, kept prices fair, and kept production where it should be so we didn't have a surplus of items. And you would see this NRA code on different items and in stores, and you were supposed to only shop at stores that promoted the NRA. Also created the Public Works Administration. This created large products like the Grand Coulee Dam, which you see here. Huge, and you can see how tiny these cars are here. The Grand Coulee Dam was an enormous project in the northwest of the country. So was the Triborough Bridge, which connects Brooklyn and Manhattan in New York City. So these were huge products that the Public Works Administration created, but they lasted several years and made thousands of jobs. Going on to the second part of the lecture.